Nobody posts the moment it actually happens. There's no photo for the Tuesday night Raymond didn't buy anything. No caption for the $7 that moved from checking to savings while he was making coffee. Wealth, the real kind, the kind that's still standing in 20 years, doesn't look like a moment. It looks like nothing happening over and over until one day it's something. Raymond isn't rich. Not by any number he'd say out loud. He drives a car with 94,000 miles on it. He buys the store brand coffee. If you sat next to him on a plane, you'd learn more about his fantasy football league than his finances, because he never brings it up. But underneath the boring surface, something has been building for 3 years, quietly, without a single announcement. And the first sign of it has nothing to do with how much he earns. It's what he does with the part he doesn't spend. It's a Thursday, and Raymond gets an email from HR. Open enrollment reminder. Buried in the middle is a line about his 401k match. The company just bumped it from 4% to 5%. Most people would skim past it. Raymond reads it twice, opens a new tab, and increases his own contribution by 1% to match it. It takes 90 seconds. He doesn't tell anyone. He goes back to his spreadsheet and finishes the report he was working on before lunch. That night, Derek calls to talk about the truck he's been eyeing. A diesel, fully loaded, $58,000 out the door. He got approved for financing that afternoon, and he's excited, the way people get excited about things they've wanted for a while. Raymond listens. He asks good questions, the kind a friend asks. He doesn't mention the 1%. There's nothing to mention. It's not a story. It's just a number that moved. This is the part nobody puts in a highlight reel. Nobody screenshots a 1% contribution increase. Nobody makes a video about remembering to move $50 into an index fund on a random Thursday. But Raymond has learned to feel something when these moments happen. Not excitement exactly, something quieter. Satisfaction that doesn't need an audience. According to Vanguard's own participant data, the average 401k due contribution rate across working Americans sits around 7% of salary. Raymond is closer to 11%, and he didn't get there in one jump. He got there in 6 separate, forgettable 1% increases spread across 3 years, each one small enough that he never felt it in his paycheck, and none of them ever made it into a conversation. The boring win doesn't feel like winning while it's happening. It feels like almost nothing. That's exactly why most people skip it. There's no dopamine in a contribution increase. There's no dopamine in transferring money you'll forget existed within a week. But 6 months later, when Raymond checks his balance and it's higher than he expected, he understands that the boring win was the whole engine. It just never announced itself as one. Carol's transmission goes out on a Sunday. $2,400. The shop says, and they need half up front. Raymond doesn't flinch. Not because $2,400 is a small number to him, it isn't, but because the number already has a home. He opens the banking app in the tow truck's passenger seat, thumbs through to the account he labeled Do Not Touch, and moves $1,200 before the truck even pulls into the shop's lot. Carol asks if they're okay. He says yes and means it. And they go get lunch afterward like nothing happened because from the checking account's perspective, nothing did. It wasn't always like this. 4 years ago, a dead alternator on his own car, $540, less than a quarter of what Carol's transmission just cost, meant a night spent doing math in his head instead of sleeping. Which card had room? Whether the shop took installments. He remembers the specific feeling of it more than the number. A tightness that sat behind his sternum for 2 days until the payment cleared. He doesn't feel that anymore. He's not sure exactly when it stopped. He just noticed, sitting in the tow truck, that his hands weren't doing anything different than they would on any other Sunday. Here's the part that surprises people when Raymond finally talks about it. The account has $9,000 in it, and he still doesn't feel like it's enough. He's read the personal finance advice, 3 to 6 months of expenses, and by that math, he's already covered. But the number in his head keeps drifting upward. 12,000 would feel safer. 15,000 would feel really safe. He knows logically that there's a point where safe becomes hoarding cash that could be growing, but he hasn't found it yet, and he's decided that's all right. Derek doesn't have this problem because Derek doesn't have this account. When his water heater died last winter, an $1,100 repair, he put it on a card at 24% interest and told himself he'd pay it off with his tax return. He did, eventually, but the interest cost him another $140 he'll never get back, and for 2 months, the payment sat in the back of his mind the way Raymond's transmission never did in his. The Federal Reserve's most recent report on the economic well-being of U.S. households found that a meaningful share of adults would need to borrow or sell something to cover a $400 emergency. Raymond's $2,400 transmission barely registered. Not because he's wealthy, because 3 years ago he decided the goal wasn't to feel done. The goal was to feel like the number could always be a little bigger, and to keep it growing quietly in the background of every other financial decision he made. The group chat lights up in March. Derek's putting together a golf trip, 4 days, a resort in Scottsdale, $1,650 a person, once flights and the room and the green fees are added up. Everyone's in immediately. Raymond reads the messages twice. He wants to go. That's the honest part nobody says out loud in these stories. It's never really about not wanting the thing. Raymond likes golf. He likes these guys. He can picture the trip clearly enough to feel a little bit of what he'd be missing. But he opens his brokerage app instead of the group chat and looks at what $1,650 does if it goes into his Roth IRA this year, instead of a resort in Arizona. It's not really a comparison in his head between golf and no golf. It's a comparison between 4 days and 20 years. He texts the group, tells them he's sitting this one out, wishes them a good trip, means it. Nobody argues with him. Derek makes one joke about it and moves on. The trip happens without Raymond in it. And by the following Monday, nobody remembers he wasn't there. He takes the $1,650, splits it, most of it into the Roth, a little of it into a nice dinner with Carol, because saying no to one thing doesn't mean saying no to everything. This is the sign that gets the most pushback when Raymond describes it to people, because it sounds like deprivation from the outside. It isn't from the inside. He didn't grit his teeth through the decision. He made it the way you'd decide not to eat a second dessert. Not tragic, just a preference that got clearer with practice. The people spending 3% more of their income than they earn, according to recent Federal Reserve consumer credit data, aren't doing it on one dramatic purchase. They're doing it on 100 small yeses, the golf trip being one of them, that each felt too small to be worth a no. Raymond and Carol have lived in the same 2-bedroom apartment for 4 years. Same furniture, mostly. A couch they bought secondhand, a TV that's older than their relationship. Their income has gone up 34% in that time between 2 raises, and Carol picking up freelance design work on the side. Their rent has gone up 9% because they never moved. Derek, in the same 4 years, has upgraded twice. Better apartment, then the truck, then a membership at a nicer gym because the old one didn't have the right equipment. Each upgrade made sense on its own. None of them felt reckless in the moment, but stacked together. His spending has grown almost exactly as fast as his income has, which means the gap between the two, the only number that actually builds anything, has stayed close to flat for 4 years. Raymond opens a spreadsheet every quarter, the way some people check their step count. Checking, savings, the Do Not Touch fund, his 401k, Carol's freelance account, minus what's left on the car. 4 years ago, the number at the bottom was $6,200. Last quarter, it was $71,400. Nothing about how they live looks any different than it did in year one. That's not a coincidence. That's the entire strategy, even though Raymond has never once called it a strategy out loud. Net worth is the only number that tells the truth about a rising income, because a paycheck can rise for 10 years while a person's actual position never moves an inch if the lifestyle rises exactly alongside it. Raymond's income and Derek's income aren't wildly different anymore. Their net worths are. The distance between the two men isn't what they make. It's the size of the gap they've each been quietly protecting, or not protecting, every single month. Raymond gets a real raise in the fall, not a cost of living bump, an actual promotion, 8% more than he was making. He tells Carol in the kitchen, still holding his laptop, and she does the math out loud before he even finishes the sentence. About $340 more landing every month after taxes. She's the one who says it first, not let's enjoy it, but let's decide what it's for before it just starts disappearing into groceries. They go out to celebrate that weekend, a nicer dinner than usual. But the decision itself gets made 2 days earlier, at the kitchen counter, before the raise has even hit an account. They land on splitting it half into the 401k, which pushes his contribution past 12%, and half into a taxable brokerage account. They've talked about opening for 2 years, but never had a spare few $100s to actually fund. Carol sets a calendar reminder for the first paycheck at the new salary, so neither of them forgets before the money has a chance to quietly reroute itself into something else. Raymond's watched this exact moment go the other way before in himself at 26 when a raise became a better car within 2 months and the car payment quietly ate the entire increase, so that a year later he was earning more and feeling exactly the same amount of financial pressure he'd felt before. They don't do that anymore. The raise moves through the accounts before it has a chance to become anything else, before it becomes a subscription, a nicer version of something they already own, a new baseline they'd defend without meaning to. Wage growth, by the government's own numbers, has recently tracked in the low single digits year over year for most workers. Most of that growth gets absorbed invisibly into a slightly nicer version of the same life. Raymond and Carol's raises don't get absorbed. They get decided on at a kitchen counter within days of landing and redirected into accounts they mostly forget exist, right up until the quarter. Raymond opens the spreadsheet and finds out what 14 months of redirected raises actually turns into. There's a version of Raymond a few years back who would have felt something when Derek pulled up in the new truck. A flicker of comparison, maybe some quiet math about what he could afford if he wanted to. That version is mostly gone now, not because Raymond became a better person, but because he stopped needing the truck to mean anything about him. Derek's truck is loud, literally and otherwise, and Raymond genuinely likes it, compliments it, means the compliment. He just doesn't measure himself against it anymore. The comparison used to be automatic, the way a reflex is automatic. Somewhere in the last 3 years, it quietly stopped firing. He noticed its absence before he noticed why. What replaced it wasn't superiority, it was indifference, the good kind. His own number is growing in a direction he can see on a spreadsheet every quarter. Derek's number, if Derek ever built the same spreadsheet, would tell a very different story. And it has nothing to do with the truck. It's just that Raymond finally stopped needing anyone else's choices to validate his own, including the choice to keep driving 94,000 miles into a car nobody will ever compliment at a barbecue. None of this looked like anything while it was happening. A contribution bumped by 1%. A transmission that got paid from the passenger seat of a tow truck without a single phone call to anyone. A golf trip that came and went without him. Forgotten by the group chat within a week. A raise decided on at a kitchen counter. before it ever touched a checking account long enough to become a habit. Individually, every one of these moments was too small to tell a story about. If you'd asked Raymond in any given week what he'd done that was building anything, he probably would have said nothing. Nothing happened this week. That was usually true, and that was usually the point. Together, over 3 years, they told the only story that actually matters, the one written in a number Raymond checks quarterly and almost never mentions out loud, not because he's hiding it, but because there's genuinely nothing to say about it that would sound like anything at a dinner party. I didn't buy something isn't a story. I let a decision sit for 2 days before I made it isn't a story. But it's the only mechanism that's ever actually worked. For him or for anyone else who's tried it. Not the windfall, not the lucky break, just the accumulated weight of 100 moments too small to mention. Derek isn't a cautionary tale. He's not worse with money, and he's not less disciplined as a person. He just never built the pause into his life the way Raymond built it into his, and so every raise, every good year, every extra few $100s found somewhere else to go before it had the chance to compound into anything. That's the part that's easy to miss watching from the outside. The gap between the two of them isn't a character flaw. It's a habit, repeated or not repeated, thousands of times over thousands of small decisions. This week, something small will come up. A purchase, a subscription, an upgrade that makes perfect sense in the moment. Notice the half second before you say yes to it. That's the only place any of this ever actually happens. Not in the big decisions. In the small, boring, forgettable ones, made over and over until they add up to a life you didn't announce to anyone because you were too busy quietly living it. If any of this felt familiar, that's exactly what this channel is for. Real stories about the boring decisions that actually build something every week. Subscribe if you want to be around for the next one. I'll see you then.